Welcome to Mr. Horror Media.
Reversed whisper. Enter if you dare come.
In today's video, you will discover what happens when a sound becomes more than just a sound, when a simple knock on a door begins to feel like a message from something you cannot see, cannot prove, and cannot escape. It started in an ordinary apartment on the 9th floor of a quiet residential building. Nothing unusual about it. Neutral walls, a narrow hallway leading to a solid wooden door. The kind of place where every sound has a clear source, the elevator humming, distant traffic, the occasional footsteps in the corridor. And then, one night, at exactly 2:47 a.m., there was a knock. Not loud, not aggressive, just 3 measured taps. The resident assumed it was a mistake, maybe someone drunk, maybe a neighbor at the wrong door. He waited. Silence followed. When he finally looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty. He didn't open it. The next night, at 2:47 a.m., it happened again. 3 taps, same rhythm, same spacing. This time he checked immediately. No footsteps, no retreating shadows. The corridor light flickered softly above a completely empty stretch of carpet. By the 4th night, the pattern was undeniable. 2:47 a.m. exactly. Not 2:46, not 2:48. The human brain is designed to find patterns, and once it finds one, it refuses to let it go. Sleep began to change. He started waking up at 2:45 a.m. without an alarm, heart already racing, waiting. Anticipation can be more terrifying than the event itself. At 2:47 a.m., the knock would arrive, always 3 times. He told himself it was plumbing. Old buildings breathe at night, pipes contract, wood shifts, but pipes do not keep time with digital precision. Eventually, he did what any rational person would do. He installed a CCTV camera directly above the door, angled toward the hallway. High resolution, night vision enabled, motion detection activated. If someone was knocking, the camera would see them. The first night after installation, he didn't sleep at all. He sat in the living room with the live feed open on his phone. 2:46 a.m. The hallway on screen was still. 2:47 a.m. 3 knocks echoed through the apartment. He froze. On the screen, nothing moved. No figure, no shadow approaching, no hand reaching toward the door. The corridor remained completely empty, yet the sound had clearly come from the door itself. He replayed the footage, frame by frame. No distortion, no glitch. The audio from the camera captured the knock clearly, 3 distinct impacts against wood. But visually, nothing. The following nights deepened the mystery. Sometimes the knock sounded slightly closer to the top of the door, other times lower, as if the source shifted position, but the hallway footage never showed a presence. He began analyzing the sound waveform. It wasn't random vibration. It had structure, the acoustic signature of knuckles against solid wood. At this point, fear began evolving into something more complex. Doubt. Because if no one was outside, then the sound had to be coming from inside. He inspected the door's interior. No loose panels, no hollow sections. He pressed his ear against it during the day. Silence. But at night, at 2:47 a.m., the door felt different. You know how certain objects seem neutral in daylight, yet at night they carry weight? The door became less like an object and more like a boundary. Between what and what, he couldn't say. Sleep deprivation sharpened everything. Every creak in the apartment felt intentional. The refrigerator's hum sounded like distant whispering. The air itself seemed to listen. On the 7th night, something changed. The knock still came at 2:47 a.m., but this time, after the 3 taps, there was a pause, and then a 4th, softer, almost uncertain. On the camera feed, the hallway light dimmed slightly for a fraction of a second, not off, just dimmer, as if something had interrupted the electrical current. He rewound the footage repeatedly. The dimming was real. Electricians found no wiring issue. The building management reviewed corridor cameras on other floors. Nothing unusual. No one roaming at that hour. The isolation began to settle. Because when something happens that only you experience, reality itself starts to feel negotiable. He stopped telling friends. Their reactions were predictable. Laughter, logical explanations, gentle concern about stress. The more he tried to describe the precision of 2:47 a.m., the more irrational he sounded. On the 10th night, he conducted an experiment. At 2:46 a.m., he stood directly in front of the door, lights off, apartment silent, camera recording. He placed his hand flat against the wood. 2:47 a.m. The knock came. He felt it, not from the outside, from the other side of his own palm. The vibration traveled through the door into his skin. 3 taps, measured, intentional. His breathing became shallow. He did not move his hand away. After several seconds, he whispered, "Who's there?" The hallway camera captured nothing, but the recording recorded something new, a faint sound after the knock, not a voice, not words, breathing, soft, close to the microphone, as if whatever stood there was inches from the lens. He checked the hallway physically, empty, silent, but the recording did not lie. That was the moment the fear shifted from curiosity to intrusion, because if something could knock without appearing and breathe without being seen, then visibility was no longer a requirement for presence. He reviewed older footage again, and that's when he noticed it. On the very first night the camera was installed, hours before the initial 2:47 a.m. knock, there was a brief anomaly. At 2:12 a.m., the door handle moved, not fully turning, just a subtle twitch, as if tested gently. He had been asleep at that time. No knock accompanied it, just a quiet attempt. Why 2:47 a.m.? He searched for significance, numerology, building history, previous tenants, nothing, until he checked his own phone logs. Weeks before the knocking started, he had developed a habit of waking briefly during the night. He scrolled through his phone in darkness. The screen time data revealed a strange consistency. For nearly a month, he had been waking up at exactly 2:47 a.m. He just never remembered it clearly. The knocks began shortly after he stopped using his phone nightly, as if something had been aware of his wakefulness before he was. The idea sounds irrational, but consider this. The human brain filters thousands of sensations every second. What if the knock was always there, and only now had it become loud enough to notice? Or worse, what if the knock was not trying to get in, but trying to confirm he was still inside? On the 15th night, he made a decision. At 2:46 a.m., he unlocked the door. He did not open it. He simply removed the barrier. 2:47 a.m. 3 knocks. This time, the handle turned slowly downward, not violently, not forced, just enough to test whether the resistance was gone. He stepped back. The door opened by a few centimeters. The hallway beyond was empty, bathed in pale fluorescent light, but the camera feed showed something impossible. As the door moved, the hallway perspective did not shift correctly. The geometry felt wrong, like a subtle distortion in depth. The corridor appeared slightly longer than before. He closed the door immediately. When he replayed the footage, the distortion was gone. Normal hallway, normal proportions, but the timestamp remained 2:47 a.m. Since that night, the knocking has stopped. No more sounds, no more handle movement, no more breathing. Silence has returned to the apartment, and yet he no longer sleeps at 2:47 a.m., because every night, without fail, he wakes up at that exact minute, not to a knock, but to the feeling that something is standing just outside the door, waiting for him to lock it again. Some boundaries are not meant to be tested.